Hi there, and welcome to the third video on values for sung worship in the Antioch Network. We've already looked at making worship accessible and making worship prayerful. This time we're going to look at making worship passionate. Now, we could go in the wrong direction here. Passion doesn't have to mean loud. It doesn't have to mean physically expressive. It doesn't have to mean strongly emotional. It can be all of those things, but it doesn't have to be. So what does passionate worship mean? Well, passionate worship is about bringing your heart to God and his people, being emotionally present, not closed off or distracted or cynical, caring about the church community and being open to receiving from God again. So coming back to our title, can we make worship passionate? Well, not exactly. We can't create passion in our congregations or even really in ourselves. What we can do is create space for God to move in our hearts by his Spirit. That's what stirs up love and releases passion. Or we can shut that space down. We can influence the culture of a church so that passion is welcomed and not feared, or we can influence it the other way, shutting down the possibility for passion with coldness in our own hearts, feeling that we're more important than other people, trying to control things too much. And passionate worship also flows from the other two values. If worship isn't accessible, it's unlikely to be passionate because people can't engage. If worship isn't prayerful, it's unlikely to be passionate because passion comes from the Holy Spirit moving in us. So then, how can we as worship leaders help to build a culture of passionate worship in our churches? Here are a few ideas. Firstly, pray for it. In your preparation, before the service, with your team, in the service as part of worship, pray expecting God to do something in the hearts and the lives of the people you're leading, and in your own heart and life. Try to hold space in worship for the Holy Spirit to work, and be open to something spontaneous as you listen to God and read the room. Second, model it. Bring your heart to God and to his people when you lead worship. Now, this is going to look different for different people, but don't be afraid of experiencing and expressing emotion, even if it feels like other people aren't with you. And this also applies when you're in the congregation. You're still a worship leader, and passion is genuinely contagious. Next, remember your body. Remember Romans 12, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Now, we said before, that's about the whole of life, but it includes gathered worship. Singing is a physical action, and many of the other words in the Bible about praise are about posture and body language, lifting up your hands, kneeling, shouting. What we do with our body expresses our heart, and what we do with our body does something to our heart as well. Sharing testimonies. Every week, Emmanuel Church in Radcliffe asks, "What are you thankful for?" Oldham's Church shares God stories from the week. This really generates passion. It builds community, glorifies God, raises the level of faith in the room. Finally, love each other. Sometimes we can feel a bit afraid of each other in church, like, what's acceptable in this space? Are people going to judge me? Is this too much? Ask God to help you break through that. We live in the love of God, and we're called to love one another. So bring the gift of your heart. In sung worship, as you talk to people, as you pray, that will help other people to do the same. So there is a certain amount of vulnerability or risk in all of this, but vulnerability is at the heart of the word passion. Our word passion comes from the Latin word passio, which means to suffer. So the passion of Jesus means Jesus is suffering. And why did he suffer? Because he loved. 3 values then: accessible, prayerful, passionate. Accessible worship, where people are welcomed in, prayerful worship, where people meet with God, and passionate worship, where people bring their hearts, share in the love of Jesus, and grow in love for one another. Next time, we'll move on to the role of a worship coordinator or worship team leader in an Antioch church. See you then.